Hi everybody, it's Martin at Flicking Feathers again, and I'm tying another articulated streamer. In this video I'm doing a double deceiver. It's my take on the double deceiver. It's slightly different from like the Mike Schmidt version. I've gone for a sort of lighter fly, less bucktail, so I don't need to add any weight to counteract the buoyancy. It's a bit flashier as well, but I mean, you can adjust them to suit. This is, you know, this olive version's a bit heavier than this white version. It's even slightly sparser. It's up to you. You tie them to suit your fishing. With the water you're fishing, that kind of thing. So I'm going to tie a black and red version. Get that hook nicely secured in the vise. It's a size 2 Gamakatsu B10s. This is the back hook. Obviously you can change the size if you wish, or even the hook. You can use a hook that suits yourself. Up to you really. Just got to lay on a base of thread. We'll grab a couple of, see if I can get some schlappen type feathers for the back here. I got one on this side, similar. There we go. So I'm just picking these from the back of a saddle, but you could obviously buy a pack of schlappen to suit yourself. Or just use a saddle hackle. You don't need to be too hung up on the schlappen really. It's, if you're using a quality saddle hackle, it'll move just as well as the schlappen. It's the stem that affects it, the movement anyway. So I'm going to tie them splayed like a deceiver, so that they move a bit better in the water. So like 2 hook lengths. Just come in, catch all of that. There we go. I'm going to add a bit of flash. As I said before, this is quite a flashy version. The flash I'm using is this is New Sparkle here. It's a Sybai product, and this is multi-violet is the colour. It's just a great mix of purple and green and black and red, and I think it matches this colour scheme very nicely. So just got to taper the end slightly. I'll tie it in, and I want it just a wee bit longer than the hackles there. Just take the thread across it, use your thumbnail to spread it about, and then just fold the rest back. And don't be too particular. You want it spread around, you don't want it in one wee spot. And that all moves like crazy in the water. So the next thing I'm going to use is this is dyed UV polar chenille. This is just black. Just going to tie that in, and then quickly take it up the body. Doesn't matter if your turns are exactly touching, as long as they're near enough it. And it'll stop, cross my thread, secure it. Nice and tight wraps, always keep your thread wraps nice and secure. And I'll smooth out that so I've got a base for tying in the next part. I'm going to just wax my thread to give me a bit extra grip on the bucktail. And I like to tie the belly in first. So I'm just going to take a wee bit of red. You don't need a huge bunch for this fly, and I want it to, the bucktail to extend sort of halfway into the tail. Broke my thread. Don't worry if you break your thread, that's not really a problem. Just tie over it, tie over both pieces. It happens. So that's tied in nice and secure, and yeah, so I want my bucktail coming like halfway into the wing, halfway into the tail, sorry. I'll just trim it first. You can take a loose turn, just gather it and make sure that you're not going to crowd your eye, and then you can tie over it nice and securely. And make sure you've got a nice spread around the bottom half of the shank, and then I'm going to put some black over the top. Measure that off, same length. Same again, tie it in, nice and secure. The thread's a wee bit frayed there, so I'll just run the wax across it. This helps to sort of control things a wee bit better. And then, now that that's got plenty of wax, you can actually sit your bobbin back and just lick it with the flame, and it'll take any of the wee frayed bits away. Half hitch or two. There's plenty in this. it's not going to be seen. Get a good coat of super glue. Then you can cut your your wire for your articulation. I'm using about 3.5 inches of beading wire. I'm just going to touch that, make sure the glue's dry. I'll feed it through the eye. And once you get your tips lined up, just using glass beads, I'm going with red beads because, well, it matches the scheme, but really I don't think it will make much difference from a fishing perspective. And I mean, if you don't have the fish in your system that are big enough for these kind of flies, you can tie them smaller. You know, you can tie that. You can make that a 6 B10s if you like. It'll certainly work. So a front hook, I'm using a longer shanked hook. Using a Varivas 2500 VSE, so straight eyed hook, size 2. It's got a similar gap to the B10s size 2, but the longer shank. But again, up to yourself. You could use a SP11 or something like that, a long shank hook. You could just use another B10s. Just adjust the flies so that they're how you want them. So I'll just come in, make sure that everything's sitting how I like it. I'm going to take my thread back in open turns, but tight wraps. Make sure everything's sitting how it should be. Then I'll spiral back up. Right, and that's already rock solid, and I've only spiraled it up and down a couple of times, but I'm going to double it back. Because it doesn't cost me anything to do it. Just take your thread and smooth out that overlap, because that's a wee bit sharp sometimes, the wire. It's better just to get it all dealt with. So there's the articulation tied in, rock solid. I'm just going to saturate it with glue. Again, you probably don't need this, but I don't think it does me any harm. doing it. So another bunch of red bucktail. I'm just going to hand stack it slightly, so that you don't want the tips really even, you still want the natural taper, but you can take away some of the extremely long fibres. And then I'll measure this. I want this coming halfway back into the rear fly, like half of the rear fly, including the tail. This will just help you sort of build the overall taper in the fly. Just tie that in. Hopefully try to keep it on the underside of the shank. And just leave your butts the length of your underbody. Another wee bit of black. Same again, halfway through the rear fly. Just cover up that, it covers all your articulation, but it doesn't really affect the movement. Just lash everything down. And I'll get a bit more of my sparkle. Just knock the tips uneven. Just catch it in at the head for speed, and fold everything back. And that's just a similar length to that second bunch of bucktail. Again with my polar chenille. Wind it forward. Try not to trap any fibres, just sweep it back every turn when you change hands. And it's up to you really how tightly you wind this. You can build a fairly dense body if you really want to. You know, if you want it to be pushing a bit of water. Although it'd probably be better tying on a different fly. You know, something like a bulkhead or something, if you're really wanting that disruptive water movement. Right, get that nice and secure. Leave yourself plenty of room, because there's a fair bit of material to go in here. Get the throat. I sometimes like to tie a topping in as well. I probably won't on this. Might just use some flash. So this bunch I'm tying in for the belly, halfway back into the second wing again, right? So each clump of bucktail is halfway back. This one's halfway into this fly, this one's halfway into this. You know, it creates a nice sort of build up of material. Helps you get a nice taper. You can mess about with it. Make sure it's sitting how you want it. Right, so again, I'm going to cover the whole bottom half. Black. Tidy it all up. Now we'd usually tie some red crystal flash in for a throat, but it doesn't really make much sense with this colour scheme. I will, however, tie a few more strands of flash over the back. You can use, you know, if you're tying if you're not tying it in black, you could be tying, you know, if you were tying an olive pattern, you could put some brown or a bit of peacock herl over the top, something like that, just to accentuate it. But I'll just use this some more of the same flash. Come in, super glue on the thread, hold it for a wee second. Woof. There you go. So the last thing I'm going to do now is add some eyes. Use whatever eyes you like, doesn't really matter. Ooh. Let him see it right. Just check your eyes, make sure they're sitting how you like them, and then we'll come in and fill the space with some UV resin. And you can see there's plenty of fluorescence in that bucktail and in those eyes as well. So, you know, particularly in dark days, especially if you've got stained water, you know, if it's running off of peat or something, this will really stand out. It'll help the fish to pick it out, provoke a response, you know. I'm a great believer in fluorescence, and I think actually a lot of people confuse fluorescence with UV. I've heard guys talking about like, I put the lamp on and I don't see any UV. Well, you wouldn't, because we can't see UV. Some fish might be able to see it, but fluorescence we can all see, and it really picks up your fly. Basically what that is, fluorescent materials emit light when they are hit with ultraviolet rays, which are in the sunlight, so they really stand out well with the fish. So I've filled the gap, and I've just coated the whole thing around the eyes with some thin resin, and I'm just turning it, trying to get a shape that I like. Then when I'm fairly happy, I'll zap it again, and that's it. A double deceiver. Slightly different take on it. Most guys tend to just have layers of bucktail along the fly, and then weighting it. This is completely unweighted, and as such I've had to use less bucktail, but it's nice and easy to cast. Well, comparatively, it's a big fly. It's a fairly easy casting fly for its size. Hangs quite nicely, you know, even though there's not a huge amount of buoyancy from the bucktail, because it's fairly limited. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was useful. Tie some of these up, whatever colours you like, just suit yourself. And tight lines, guys. Thanks very much. Remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Cheers.